Hi everyone, welcome to the final lesson in this series of videos on creating basic beats using Shimi. In this video we're going to take a look at the Arpeggiator. Now Shimi's Arpeggiator is pretty powerful and gives you a huge amount of control over what you can do with it, so there's a fair bit to cover here. Let's start by just adding it in. Now we'll go to Modules, Add Arpeggiator, and we can see that it's already connected us to the chord and metronome modules that we've got set up. Now the three main parts of the arpeggiator that we can control are its rhythm, which is currently set to crotchets, its shape, which is currently moving in an upwards pattern, and its length, which is there are 4 notes per individual arpeggio. So let's first of all just hear what it sounds like as it is. Okay, so one thing I immediately want to change is I want to make sure that the start of the arpeggio, so the bottommost note in that rising pattern, is happening at the start of each bar. So I'm going to go into the metronome, do the new bar pending event, which is going to happen just before the start of each bar. And so basically I'm going to make sure that by the time we reach the start of each bar, the arpeggiator already has its shape position at 0, which is the start. So let's give that a listen. Okay, so that's sounding better. Now let's just experiment with a few different options in the arpeggiator. So I'm going to first of all change the rhythm to semiquavers. I'm going to set the length up to, let's try 7. And let's try some different shapes. Okay, so all of those are quite regular options and nothing we'd expect not to be able to find in any other arpeggiator. But there's one more shape which we haven't looked at yet, which is the custom shape here. And this basically allows us to set any kind of calculation we want for generating our arpeggio shape. One of the most useful though is the custom wave function, which is in waveforms, custom wave. And this will allow us to design our own wave pattern. Now for the X value, so how far left or right along our wave we are, I'm going to use the current metronome beat, so timing beat. And now if we click show full editor, we get this screen here where we can start doing our designing. Now I already know what pattern I want, so I'm going to go straight ahead and add a new section to the right here. I'm going to increase the length of each part to 2, so we have a total wave period of 4, which matches the number of beats in our bar. I'm going to set the shape of this to be a cubic eased in, and I'm also going to increase the height a bit up to 4. Now on the second part, I'm going to disconnect its start from the end of the previous section, and I'm going to set the pattern to be steps, and I just want 2 steps in there. Okay, so that's what I wanted, so let's give that a listen. Okay, so as you can imagine, there's so much experimentation that can be done here. The possibilities are pretty endless for what you can do. One problem with that pattern so far is that the pitch is currently sounding a bit shrill at the top there, so I'm just going to move everything down by an octave. So similar to what we did for the clip, so I'm just going to do add pitch -12, and let's give that another listen. Okay, so now there's only one more thing that needs to be done to make this the same as it was in the demo all the way back at the start of this series, and that's that the piano had this really nice reversing kind of sound effect on it, and that was actually achieved by just automating the volume fader on the piano track in Ableton. So what I did was to go into the metronome module, and we're going to subscribe to the update event this time, which will run each time Shimi updates. And we're going to go to the general module and control change behavior. So let's use a controller number of, say, 29. And for the controller value, I'm going to use something called a linear map. So this basically takes a value and maps from one range to another. So for example, I'm going to, for my value, use a saw wave. And for the X value of that saw wave, I'm going to again use the metronome beat. Now a saw wave goes from -1 to +1. So I'm going to set that as my from range. And then for my to range, I'm going to do 50 to 110. So now that means I have a saw wave that goes from 50 to 110. So now just in Ableton, I can just use MIDI mapping to map that to my piano's fader. And when I click this again, we can now see that the piano fader is being automated by that control change on the update event. So now we've actually finished recreating the demo video from right back at the start. So let's just quickly give it a playback and make sure it all sounds roughly the same as it did back then. Okay, so that's it. If you made it all the way through these videos, then first of all, thank you, and hopefully you found them interesting and you've got excited about experimenting with Shimi for yourself. I've really only scratched the surface of what Shimi can do. We've still not even touched loopers or MIDI routers yet, so there will be videos coming soon on those. If you want to keep updated on the latest videos, please consider hitting the subscribe button, and I'll hopefully see you soon.